It's all yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is David Beerman. You all know who you are. And this is my presentation today on portable storage devices. I've got a few examples. I'm going to go over a little bit briefly. I'm not going to go too far in depth, so if anybody has more input to give me, I'll be happy to take input. Or questions, answers, so forth. Okay. They're also called USB flash drives or universal serial bus. As of 2013 January, the drives were up to 512 gigabytes were available, and a 1 terabyte was unveiled at the 2013 Consumer Electronics Shows and became available later that year. Storage capacities as large as 2 terabytes are planned with steady improvements in size and price per capacity expected. If anybody knows if that's already happened, that's about as much update as I have right now. Does anybody know about more than 2 terabytes?
It hasn't come out yet. No.
Okay.
Still in works.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that input. Because it's all about learning. All right. How about up to 100,000 write and erase cycles and a 10-year shelf life storage space? That's a pretty good time. Advantages are that it takes little power, they're not fragile, they don't have moving parts, they're impervious to magnetic fields, scratches, and dust. They're virtually unbreakable and retain memory even after being submerged in water and even through a machine wash, which I've never done that before. I don't know about anybody here who's done something. The disadvantages are that USB failures are more likely to be sudden, while the rotating drives and hard drives, optical drives, floppy drives are more frequently giving some indication, noise or slowness, to give enough advance warning so data can be removed before total failure. And most do not include a write protection mechanism, which I know about floppy disks, they have that. And that's a switch on the housing that prevents the host computer from writing or modifying data on the drive. The small size makes them easily misplaced. And we know what that is, you know, getting them at home, something like that. You know. Okay? We're all human. So the best way to do that is to put them on a keychain or something like that. Make sure you don't misplace them. There are expensive, and they're larger than they're more expensive than large hard drives, but less expensive in capacities of a few tens of gigabytes as of 2011. And I'm going to give you a small slide on that. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's not showing.
Is it a YouTube video or what?
Yes, it's on YouTube video.
Go to the blue E.
Go back to your PowerPoint screen.
I pushed the window slide.
You got to choose the application that you want to open.
Well, I know it's not inside a hard disk,
That's it.
but that was the next slide. That
Tabs.
was the next slide.
Didn't come up.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. No.
Now hit skip ahead.
I know. I don't understand. Okay, thank you.
I'm Jonathan Ayers with Network for
Sorry about
Success. And today we're going to talk about what is a flash drive. Well, gosh, a flash drive is a mechanical piece of equipment that is used to store information from computers. Sometimes they're thought of as just the same as a hard drive, which would be the part of your computer that stores all of your information. They're very small, so you can carry them around in your pocket, and they're static, which means that they don't need any power to run on. You don't have to have an electrical cord to plug them in, but you do have to have a computer to plug them into in order to use them. So they're not just standalone devices. Well, I have two examples of flash drives here, and I'm going to show you both of them and tell you a little bit about some of the qualities. The first one I have here is called a Flash Voyager. It happens to be by the manufacturer named Corsair, and it looks just like this. Now you'll notice that this one has a soft rubber casing to protect it from dropping, and there's a cover that goes over the end, but here's the end that plugs into the computer, and that's a USB end. So the Universal Serial Bus is what USB stands for, and this is how you transfer information between this flash drive and the computer. So inside of this rubber casing, are some little chips, some computer chips that store information, and it's called a flash drive because it doesn't have any moving parts. You just merge the data onto the drive and it stays there. This is one type of flash drive, and they come in various sizes, starting down around what they call 256, which is very, very small, and ranging up to 16 or 32 gigabytes, which is huge. You could store thousands of photos on one of these, or MP3s. You can store your music on them. And basically, you can store anything on a flash drive that you could store on your computer. Now, here's another type of flash drive, which is very interesting. It has a hard plastic case. And this is a generic flash drive, and I'll tell you why this is generic. I take the end off, and you can see that it has a USB to plug into the computer. But wait a minute, it has another end to take off, and that reveals a little card inside. And if you see here, I'm going to pull this card out. This is the actual storage device, and it's called an SD card, and it fits right in here to give me a flash drive once it's assembled, and then I can carry this around with me. Now what's nice about this is that because I can take the card out and I still have the device, I can change cards at any time to larger or smaller sizes. Not only that, I can put pictures on this card, take the card out, and stick it into one of these little media settings on a printer and look at my photos. So there are a couple of different types of flash drives available. They're inexpensive, they're easy to use, and you don't need much in the way of knowledge to operate them.
Okay, that's all I've got on flash drives for now. I'm going next to the floppy disk. And they're in three sizes as far as I know, 8-inch, oh yes, thank you, Michelle. 8-inch, 5 1/4 inch, and 3 1/2 inch. They've been around since the 70s up till 2000s. By 2010, motherboards were rarely manufactured with floppy drive support. Going back to flash drive 3 1/2 inch discs can be used with an external USB floppy disk drive. USB drives for 5 1/4 inch and 8 inch are rare or non-existent. The earliest discs were developed in the late 60s. 8 inch in diameter became commercially available in 1971, produced and improved upon by IBM and other companies such as Memorex, Sugar Associates, and Burroughs Corporation. The first floppy disk was 8 inches in diameter. IBM used this size as a way of loading microcode into mainframe processors, and the original disk was not field writable. It could store about a megabyte. 5 1/4 disc exceeded the 8 inch, and many applications developed the same storage capacity using higher density media and recording techniques. This showing the different sizes, 8 inch, 5 1/4, 3 1/2. They developed the same storage capacity using high-density medium coding techniques. In the early 80s, a number of manufacturers, 21 companies, eventually settled on a 3.5-inch floppy disk or microdisc, similar to a Sony design, but improved to support both single-sided and double-sided media, with formatting capacities of 360 kilobytes and 720 kilobytes respectively, which we all know that's not much space now, but that's what they needed back then. They didn't need as much space. I didn't get anything on the zip drives. They came later. I don't know exactly when they were invented and how much memory capacity they had, but they were a little bit later on. Single drive shipped in 83, double-sided by 84. The most common format, double-sided high-density 1.44 megabyte disk, shipped in 86. The first Macintosh computers used single-sided 3.5-inch discs, but with 400 kilobyte format. Followed in 86 by double-sided 800 kilobyte floppies. Later Macs could also read and write 1.44 megabyte hard disk, high-definition discs in personal computer format with a fixed rotation speed. And that's all I have on the floppy disk. Now I'm starting on the optical disk. Third generation disk was developed in 2000-2006, introduced as Blu-ray disc. First movies of Blu-ray disc were released in June 2006, eventually prevailed in a high-definition optical disc format war over a company format, the HD DVD. Standard Blu-ray disc can hold about 25 gigabytes of data, a DVD about 4.7 gigabytes, and CDs about 700 megabytes. But the first generation initially used to store music and computer software. The Laserdisc format stored analog video signals for distribution of home video, but commercially lost to the VHS video cassette format, which is one of my favorites, but they're not around anymore. They've kind of been moved out. Commercial loss due mainly to high cost and non-recordability. One example of high density data storage capacity achievable was with infrared laser 700 megabyte of net user data for a 12 centimeter compact disc. The second generation used for storing a great amount of data, including broadcast quality digital video. In the DVD format, 4.7 gigabytes are stored on a standard 12 centimeter single-sided single-layer disc. And the third generation was the Blu-ray and HD DVD disc. They used blue-violet lasers with focusing optics of greater aperture for use with discs with smaller pits and lands, thereby greater data storage capacity per layer. And I know everybody's supposed to be familiar with how that works with pits and layers. Experimental Blu-ray discs are up to 400 gigabytes. The fourth generation have the potential to hold more than a terabyte of data. And the archival disc, holographic versatile disc, LSR, protein-coded discs. I don't know if anybody knows any more about that. That's all I've had on that. Any input on that? Any questions? Moving on now to the hard disk. It was invented in the 24th of December 1954 by IBM team led by Ray Johnson. Introduced by IBM in 1956, hard disk drives became dominant in the early 60s. More than 200 companies have produced hard disk drive units. Most current units are manufactured by Seagate, Toshiba, and Western Digital. And two most common form factors are the modern HDDs, 3.5 disks in desktop computers and 2.5 disks in laptops. In 1961, IBM introduced a new type, the 1311 disk drive, about the size of a washing machine, and stored 2 million characters on a removable disk pad. Don't have any pictures of that, but I guess you can imagine something that big. We've kind of whittled it down a little bit since then. Capacities of 300 megabytes were reached by the early 80s. The desktop HDDs store between 60 gigabytes and 4 terabytes. As of April 2014, the highest capacity consumers HDD store 6 terabytes with 1 terabyte per disk. The mobile laptop HDDs were smaller than the desktop and tend to be slower and have lower capacity and more expensive. Now we go to the external hard disk drives. As of April 2014, capacities range from 160 gigabytes to 6 terabytes, and the common sizes are 160 gigabytes, 250 gigabytes, 320 gigabytes, 500 gigabytes, 640 gigabytes, 750 gigabytes, and between 1 and 6 terabytes. So it's finally moved on to holding a lot more. And I've got the next slide to show how that works.
It's on the tab.
Sir? Yes, sir.
The motor spins the hard drive's disk at exactly 7,200 revolutions per minute. The circuit board keeps the speed constant. And here's the crucial part, the actuator arms that hold the read-write heads. The ends of the arms are split, and right in the middle ride the disk platters. But the heads never actually touch the disks. The space between the head and the surface of the disk is 5,000 times thinner than a human hair. The heads float on a cushion of air created by the spinning disks. An absolutely essential cushion that prevents the head from crashing on the disk. And what a crash it would be. Talking about a crash is not only a metaphor. At these tiny scales, the weight of the heads really compares to the weight of a 747 airplane. A 747 airplane packed with 100,000 passengers, flying at 60 miles per hour, 1/100th of an inch from the ground. Ouch. There's no friction to slow things down, so the arms can move the heads to write or access data up to 60 times per second. The engine that drives the arms is invisible because it's an electromagnetic system driven by two forces of nature, electricity and magnetism, which makes the arms move back and forth across the disk at lightning speed. That's it for the components. Now here comes the data. The data is stored inside tiny concentric tracks on the disk's surface. During manufacture, up to 200,000 of these tracks are created on the disk. Each track is divided into sectors. A map of the tracks and sectors in the printed circuit board tells the heads exactly where to read or write information. The surface of the disk is smooth and shiny, but look closer. It's way more complicated. A magnetic film on the surface memorizes all the information. The heads magnetize microscopic sections of the film and store the data in a sequence of ones or zeros. Each 1 or 0 is called a bit. The value of each bit is determined by the orientation of its magnetic field, plus or minus. And it doesn't take long for the bits to add up. One high-quality photo can take up 29 million bits spread across 12 different sectors of the disk. This sounds incredibly massive, but in reality, a stupefying quantity of bits can fit in an extremely small space. Each square centimeter of the disk's surface holds 31 billion bits. Now that's space-saving. A hard disk stores and recovers a phenomenal amount of information at speeds that defy comprehension. Using the power of magnetism, the shiny surface of a hard disk can store the contents of several sets of encyclopedias, or hundreds of thousands of images. Easy. The hard disk really is an amazing shrinking machine, squeezing mountains of data into little bytes with a single keystroke. This masterpiece of engineering has really stretched the boundaries of physics, bit by bit. Coming up.
Alright, now moving on to the memory card. And the memory card or flash card is an electronic flash memory data storage device used for storing digital information, commonly used for electronic devices including digital cameras, mobile phones, laptop computers, MP3 players, and video game consoles. And I've got a video on that. I went to my daughter's yesterday. I'm just going to throw this in real quick. And she showed me a sample of about 2,000 film slides she got on her Facebook, of our great-granddaughter. And I wish I could have brought that picture because she's a doll. I mean, she's a perfect model. She knows all about, she can take selfies and all kinds of stuff. It's great. I mean, that was bringing it right back to me. Hey guys, when you have big kids, you'll know what it feels like to be real, right? Never mind. All right, let's see.
You know they make solutions for that, though.
What's that for? Yeah, it costs too much. I don't make it happen. All right. In the 90s, a few years back, number of memory formats including compact flash, smart media, miniature cards arrived. Since 2010, new products of Sony, previously only using memory stick, and Olympus, previously only using XD cards, have been offered with additional SD card slots. Effectively, the format war has turned an SD card's favor. Video game consoles use memory cards. Sorry, I didn't put anything about video games on this. It's going to be too spread out. I'm not too familiar with that stuff. They hold saved game data. The Neo Geo AES, released in 1990 by SNK, was the first video console able to use a memory card. AES memory cards were also compatible with Neo Geo MVS arcade cabinets, allowing players to migrate saves between home and arcade systems. This means they can hold their games and continue back and forth and vice versa. Well, that concludes That's it, I believe. Yes, that's it. Any questions?
Mr. Neely,
Yes, sir.
so do you see USB flash drives being the predominant flash memory in the future?
Well, as I said, when my daughter showed me how she could get 2,000 photographs and also hold all her Google email and all this other stuff, and that just about filled it up. And hers is 4 gigabyte. And they were showing up to 16, up to 64 gigabytes. So the smaller, more compact they are getting, yeah, it's getting easier. Glenn, I don't know how small that piece was you showed me. Is that the same similar as the flash drive?
The small one was actually 4 gigabytes.
4 gigabytes? And that goes into a flash card or into,
You can either insert it into a flash card adapter, or you can just put it directly into the device.
okay. Yeah, it sounds like it's really getting there. I mean, smaller, more compact. I've never had an iPod, so I don't know about all that, but I know it's getting a lot more technical all the time. Any more questions? Anything at all? Okay, thank you very much.